verses, and I hope that these will minister to you. You can check these out at douglashamp.com. Ask and you will receive. And I just want to let you know that if you want to get these to your inbox, just go ahead and subscribe, and then you'll get a notification from Google Plus that I've put out a new video as I go through each of these different passages. And you may also consider sharing this with people that might be having the same struggles, the same questions, the same doubts as you and I have as well. So make sure to share those on Facebook and other places. But we're coming to two of my favorite passages. They're my favorite because they're so incredible, and yet I wrestle with these because they're so incredible. So Matthew 17:20, so Jesus said to them, because of your unbelief. So they're saying, why couldn't I do this? Right? They're trying to heal a boy and they couldn't do it, get the demon out because of your unbelief, Jesus says. For surely I say to you, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. And then the next passage is very similar in Matthew 21:21 through 22. So Jesus answered and said to them, surely I say to you, if you have faith and do not doubt, you will not only do what was done to the fig tree, but also if you say to this mountain, be removed and be cast into the sea, it will be done. And whatever things you ask in prayer, believing, you will receive. So these are two very bold statements that Jesus is making. And it almost sounds like he's saying that ask and anything is possible. Now again, you have to understand what are the basics for asking, for mountain moving kind of stuff. Well, again, you can't be asking God to help you to do unrighteous acts, right? So he's not going to help you rob the bank. He's not going to help you cheat on your wife. He's not going to help you murder your neighbor, right? You can't ask God to help you with those things. And of course, anything else that violates his law, because his law is love. God is love. And so if you are requesting something that is contrary to love, that's really the litmus test. Is this loving or not? So if you're doing something that is contrary to love and you're asking God to help you with that, forget it. All bets are off. He's not going to help you. You can pray till you're blue in the face. He's not going to help you with that. But if you're doing things that are good, that are righteous, now they don't always have to be, God help me give $10,000 to World Vision or to Compassion. All right, you probably should do those things. But we sometimes tend to think that if only charitable actions are worthy of prayer. And yet God doesn't say that. Think about this, for example. He curses a fig tree, right? And the disciples are like, whoa, you just cursed this fig tree. All right, so Jesus spoke to a tree, okay, a piece of wood. It's in the ground, a plant, if you will. And something happened to that, right? It wasn't to end world hunger. It wasn't to bring in world peace, right? It wasn't even to save the whales, right? His prayer wasn't for any of those things, and yet it had great impact. It was just for really visual impact in this case, right? Again, it didn't have any greater, benefit to mankind other than to paint a picture and to make this lesson. And Jesus saying, you can do that. You can do not only what was done to the fig tree, but you can even speak to this mountain. So I want you to understand that he's not only talking about, super spiritual, save the planet kind of stuff, or get people saved kind of stuff, or Lord help me witness to 10,000 people today kind of stuff. He's talking about everyday, mundane kind of stuff, right? In another passage, he talks about speaking to this mulberry bush to be picked up by the roots and cast into the sea. Again, a very physical thing, right? Not saving the planet and all the best noble things you can possibly think of. He's talking about you. He's talking about me. He's talking about personal lives, personal situations that if we have the faith, anything can happen. That is what's so incredible about these passages. And I think what happens, and we talked about this in the last devotional moment, is that we get stuck in the doctrine of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, right? We start thinking, well, according to my systematic theology and what I hear from my pastor and what I read in my theology books, none of this stuff has happened. All these miracles that Jesus did back then, those were only to authenticate his message. Those were only to prove that he really is the Son of God. And now that all that has happened and the disciples did their thing, it's over, right? And basically just live your life and, pray that God will help you with the car payment, and that's about it, right? And that's where we get stuck. Why do we get stuck? Well, I think because we're walking by sight and not by faith. We start thinking, well, we've been trained in the idea of Descartes of this material world, and this really goes back to the debate between Plato and Democritus, between idealism, which was the Platonic idea, and Democritus's idea of materialism. In other words, the material world is all there is. And then later on with Rene Descartes of this whole idea of looking only at the empirical evidence, which, is important. It's led to great discoveries. I agree with that. But it's not the sum total of all there is. There is so much more that we cannot see. And now it's very exciting that physicists are beginning to discover through things like quantum physics that, the universe behaves rather weird. It's a lot more different than we would have thought. It's not only a materialistic universe. In fact, some people are going so far as to suggest that it's a holographic universe. That there's some two-dimensional plane that has light or lasers or whatever shining up through it, and it's projecting out this 3D universe in which we live. That would include us, of course. It's a holographic universe. Pretty interesting ideas. Others are saying maybe we're living in a simulation, just like in a video game, where the rules are different. The rules are different than just dirt and stuff, right? And this is really borne out when you look at quantum mechanics and quantum entanglement, that when you have two particles that are connected, they're entangled somehow. No matter how far apart those things are separated, what this one does will automatically and instantaneously affect what this one does. That's what's so incredible. And it happens at great distances. It's happening faster than the speed of light. And so it tells us, wow, something's going on here. Our universe is far cooler than we could have possibly imagined. And as I see it, Jesus, who is the creator of this universe, whether it's simulated or holographic or whatever, but he's like, look, I know the rules. I created the rules. I am the rule giver. He's the one. He is the master programmer. He is the one who is simulating the universe, if you will. He's the one that got it all going, and he knows how it works. And as I see it, he's telling us, listen, guys, don't think of these things as miracles or supernatural. These are part of your natural world, and I'm here to tell you that there's a whole bunch more that's possible. I mean, think about it. 100 years ago, roughly, the idea of flying through the air was considered incredible, supernatural. Let's go back 500 years. To think that a man can fly through the air around the world, now that's impossible. That's magic. Or to think that we could talk without any wires, and even that we could just talk with a little thing held up to our ear, and that I could talk to somebody around the other side of the world. That was incredible. What is that, magic? No, we know today it's just science, it's just technology. The laws that allow us to do that have always been there. We simply now understand those laws, and we're now able to operate and use those laws to our benefit. And the same thing is true, as I see it. Jesus saying, look, if you have faith, nothing is impossible. And I believe it's based on the same laws that God put into the universe at the very beginning. So we're not bending the rules. We're not doing supernatural kind of things. We're not doing miraculous kind of things. They may feel miraculous, right, because they're out of the ordinary. That's true. But now things that used to be out of the ordinary, like taking a plane. I mean, we do it like taking a bus, right? and talking wirelessly, talking to people around the world. This very internet thing is pretty incredible. All these ideas were out of the ordinary. They were supernatural. They were miraculous. And yet now they're part of our everyday life. They're no big deal. So I think Jesus is trying to tell us, if you guys have faith, you can say to this mountain, be removed and be cast into the sea. Now again, it's a quantum leap for us. It's kind of like Neo in the movie The Matrix, that as he began to understand that he was living in a simulated reality, that things didn't behave the way he thought they had to behave. He could actually jump over um, large distances. He could actually fly in the end and all kinds of weird stuff. Is that the kind of universe we're living in? Well, it sure sounds like it if we take Jesus literally and not allegorically, but that he actually meant what he said and he wasn't just, putting us on or pulling the wool over our eyes or saying, oh, well, guys, just think big thoughts and I'll, it'll be okay. No, I think he's really saying, not you can do not only what was done to the fig tree, which was, again, real. He did it. It happened. He says, that's nothing. You can even speak to this mountain, and these awesome and amazing things are going to happen. We're told that Elijah was a man with a nature just like our own, and that he prayed fervently that it would not rain for 3 years, and it didn't. We also see that Elijah, with a man with a nature just like our own, he was able to call fire down from heaven, right? But it's interesting that he was a man with a nature just like our own, because then when he was threatened, fear got a hold of him, and he ran away. Remember Peter getting out of the boat. He's going along. He's doing some awesome stuff. He's doing supernatural kind of things, and yet it wasn't supernatural. He was simply discovering there are laws that allow you to do this, but the key is to believe. And the moment he stopped believing, he fell. And Jesus said, why did you doubt? Why did you doubt? So these two passages here, Matthew 17, Matthew 21, are telling us that anything is possible, but we have to believe. And we're told here, he says in Matthew 21:22, and whatever things you ask in prayer, believing, you will receive. In other places, he says, without doubting. That's the trouble, is that we let doubt get into our minds, and we say, oh, yeah, that's not possible. I mean, yeah, that's not possible. That was way back then. That's the doctrine of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. That happened back then. Because see, the doctrines of the Pharisees and Sadducees, you see, Jesus' miracles were as weird to them as they are to us today. But think about it. What happened back in the days of Moses, all those miracles, were kind of like what Jesus did back in his day, right? There's about, a big space between them, a lot of time between them, and they probably said, well, that was possible back then, or maybe it was possible in the days of the prophets, but it's not possible today. And here comes Jesus doing amazing things, and what does their doctrine say? Nope, we're not watching, we're not listening. No matter what you do, raise somebody from the dead, we're still unimpressed, right? Walk on water, we're unimpressed. Heal people of blindness, we're unimpressed. Heal lepers, we're still not going to take notice. We're not going to acknowledge what you're actually doing. And that is what the disciples were doing when they got in the boat. And they're like, Jesus says, watch out for the doctrine of the Pharisees and Sadducees. They're like, is it because we brought no bread? They were doing the exact same thing. And yet that is what we do today. We do the exact same thing. We say, well, those things were for back then, for those people. That was pretty cool because Jesus could do it, because he's the Son of God and I'm not. Or the disciples could do it, Bill, because they had a special mandate. That's not what Jesus said. He said, whoever, if anyone. Let me show you just a couple more passages. I'm getting a little bit long here, but I want to drive home this point. This is John 14. He says, he who believes in me. See that? He who believes in me. The works that I do, he will do also. And greater probably means more than, okay? He will do because I go to my Father. Whatever. See that? Well, if you ask for world peace or if you ask for, taking world poverty. He says, no, he says, whatever. Again, the assumption is We're asking for righteous things. Okay, that's why in John 15 he says, "If you abide in me and my words abide in you, you'll ask what you desire." Okay, so you can't ask for, God help me, you know, um, help me murder my boss. It's not going to happen, right? So it has to be righteous. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. So that's the baseline is righteousness. But he says, whoever, whatever. That means that's you, that's me, that's today, that's my mountain, that's your mountain, my troubles, your troubles. If we'll commit those to God, he will do it. Psalm 34. Commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he'll do it. It's pretty incredible. And when you put these passages together, God wants to do amazing things. He wants to work with you, he wants to work with me. What is required? Belief. No doubting. We have to rewire our brains. We've got to think differently about this world and how it operates. It operates in a quantum level, we're discovering, and that things that we thought were impossible are now possible. Quantum entanglement, simulated universe, all these things scientists, that is, they're not looking at it from a religious perspective, but from just a materialistic perspective, are saying, whoa, this universe is crazy. It's amazing. It's far cooler than we could ever have thought. So our mandate as believers in Jesus is to take him at his word, to believe what he says, and to believe, to trust, to seek, to knock, and to expect him to do amazing things. Until next time, stay in the word.